Okay, so first of all, this what I'm trying to piece together here is the unfortunate situation of today's generation. And I don't necessarily mean only the younger. I mean today's generation by just the overall generic characterization of the awareness profile in today's uh, general Black community. So yes, that includes like Generation X and Generation Y and Z or whatever it is that they're being called, but it also includes the older generation, like myself, who is in the 50-year-old age bracket. There's too much of a lack of the same type of political awareness, political consciousness that to some extent, what I'm arguing at least, is or was present, for instance, during what they call the golden era of hip hop. That era, the 80s, 90s, the politically conscious, the politically astute hip hop artists, genre, subgenre, however you want to define it, that community, that time period was grounded in a political consciousness, a political awareness that was very keen on not only, the state of affairs in the Black community, but the state of affairs in America and international politics and how it all relates to Black Americans. And what I'll say is, to some extent, it's one of the reasons why there was this push, this idea, movement, agreement, understanding that Black people exist in this country, not as part of the American fabric, but in spite of the American fabric. And because of this, there was not this overarching pull. There was not an undergirding desire or promotion of the idea that we are American. There was almost an exact opposite of we may be here, but we are not of here. And that is sort of what promoted the idea of, a non-American Black reality. And that's radically different from what's going on today for, the ADOS, the FBA, the Pretendian, the history deniers are all trying to push this idea that we are the true Americans in whatever capacity that they lie that down as. Now, some of them are laying it down with at least a sense of reality. You can at least give credit and credence to some of those movements. They're underpinning, like ADOS, American Descendant of Slavery. They are at least, recognizing the truth, some parts of the truth of our historical existence. I think most of the foundational Black Americans, at least on paper, try to give credence to their African historical connection, even though they try to deny it and chop it off as a true living component of their existence or our existence today. But at least with them, there's a little bit of there's a squinted eye view towards the continent. Now, the Pretendians and the Aboriginals, they're pushing the idea that we are all authentically and isolatorily American. And okay, yeah, I mean, that just reeks of self-denial, self-hate, ignorance, and all alike. But I'm really not trying to talk about them so much as to simply, put forth this notion, this idea that there was a time when, like, if you look at Kwame Ture, and I think he's a very good example, but if you look at Kwame Ture, and he is helping to teach and push and promote the idea, and it wasn't just him, and it wasn't just one-sided, and it wasn't a denial of a quote-unquote American experience, but it was an advocation of our African existentialism inside the belly of the beast. And so during that time period, there was a lot of understanding, recognizing the notion of Black people being part of America, but not really. And unfortunately, with today's political commentary, people are trying to push and promote and force the idea that Black people are lock, stock, and barrel with whatever is American. And my biggest problem with that is it comes at a great detriment. It comes at a great disservice when you consider all of what America stands for and represents, especially on the international stage. If you discredit, if you ignore, if you don't want to deal with what America stands for domestically, that's it. That's its own brand of self-denial. But okay, I'll give you that. I'll grant you that for the time being. But so granted that for the time being, the idea that wrapping yourself up inside whatever wholesomeness you think exists in this American ideal and identity, then to ignore what America, Americanisms, American culture, nothing to do with the Black, but just generic American. And if you argue against this, then I don't know where your brain is, but because the bold-faced fact is when you say America, you're just talking about a white brand of living. And to try and wrap yourself and connect yourself to that is intimately attached to global oppression. So it behooves me, no, not behoove is the wrong word, but it startles me that so many Black people today are willing to wrap themselves up into Americanism, because there's this saying, if you break it, you buy it. When you take ownership of it, it's all yours, not just the good, it's yours. So if you want to be an American, then you have to accept that you are intimately connecting yourself to global oppression. And for that's one of the reasons, that would definitely be one of the reasons I am intimately against labeling myself with anything that would utilize the word America. As I said before, if I had it my way, I would ask you, I would prefer you call me an African in the West. I would have you, I will say, I don't mind being called African American, because that hyphen, because African and the hyphen is honestly a designation that I am not intimately connected to the oppression within and without the borders of Uncle Sam.